Good day, as you know, I am Kaylin, and today we're going to be discussing how time and attendance works. So we're going to be discussing some concepts around it. How does it fit into payroll, and what does it actually do then, in terms of what is its purpose, what is time and attendance purpose. So I'm going to use our software just to show you as we discuss through this what everything is and how it all works. So the main goal of time and attendance software or the is basically to track your employees' start and end times. So that's the crux of the matter there. So if we just check then in your clockings, you will see that obviously you've got then your ins and you've got your outs where these employees start in the mornings and the afternoons when they go home again. There can also be a case where if you would like to track lunch breaks, when are these guys taking lunch? Even if you want to track any tea breaks, are they taking tea breaks longer than what they should? They're allowed, 10, 15 minutes. So the main thing is to record that information of this employee clocking in and out then. So from that, obviously, that information, you can then start calculating hours and working out the information which will then be transferred to your payroll system then at the end of the day. So main focus is your clockings then. It also depends on what system you've got. Some systems are pretty basic where it literally just records start and end times. It doesn't work out any hours or any extra information for you. So depending on what level you go for, obviously, yeah, we've got a clockings. You're also going to then calculate your hours. Another thing that time and attendance is also used for is to track then when this employee is off and why. So has he been on sick leave, or is it public holiday that day, or is it unpaid leave? So if we just move over to the leave screen, you can also then use this capturing of this information to view if there's a pattern perhaps. You can see, okay, Thursday, yes, Friday he's been off sick, and yes, Thursday again. You can see, okay, is there a pattern being formed? Should I be worried about this? Should I not be? And then obviously also you can do leave planning ahead of time as well. So if you know that come December there's going to be a lot of guys taking off leave, you can put your leave in there, capture that, and start doing your leave planning and just check that you don't have the whole company on leave that time, unless you've got obviously a company shut that would happen there then. So yes, tracking that information. Also then, because you've got clockings captured, you can also then generate warnings and that. Is this guy, has he been late several mornings? Has he left early perhaps, or is he absent? All those kinds of warnings you can also track then in the TNA software, and this will all then add up to you basically having proof. Let's say something should happen and you need to prove that this guy was at work or that he was not at work or anything like that. You do have the proof then as to this guy, why you're giving him a warning or any information like that. So this is definitely, will definitely stand as proof for that thing. The other thing that it also obviously provides, a TNA system, is accuracy. You don't have the manual clock systems where perhaps you've got a person that needs to go and work out those hours for you, and perhaps this person is slightly tired that morning and the brain is just not working together and the calculations could be incorrect, obviously resulting in paying the employees incorrectly then, and that could be quite a fight on your hands there. So it definitely provides accuracy. Now, important for you to remember as well, the hours that do get generated in the daily hours screen is based on your shift setups. So if your shifts are incorrectly set up, the information you're going to get here is not going to be correct. If this information is not correct in this system here, obviously exporting it to your payroll will also be incorrect then. So it is of utmost importance that if you do see that your hours are incorrect here, something is not working, rather contact if it's a regular occurrence that this might happen, that the hours are incorrect, then rather contact your consultant and then ask them and say, listen here, something doesn't look right here. Can you change my shifts? This is what I need it to be. This is what it's giving me. Perhaps it's a change in your shift rules, that has come over time. or perhaps a lunch break that now needs to be deducted whether the guy clocks or not. So it's important for you to check that these hours are in fact correct before exporting that to payroll. Like I say, if you're going to obviously also if you're going to have your employees that are forgetting to clock, you're not fixing any of those errors. It's also not going to give you the correct information. The system doesn't know when this guy ended his day of work, and it'll obviously not be able to calculate those hours incorrectly. These hours are incorrect, payroll hours incorrect, obviously exported incorrectly as well. The other thing that a time and attendance system also does is improve productivity. So you've got guys that are slightly less wary of walking around now. You know, some companies have it where you would actually go through a turnstile to go to the canteen. So that then obviously would record their time out that they've been then in the canteen. You can then keep a track of that. And obviously, like I say, these guys are slightly more nervous. They're not just walking around and taking up time, so they are more at their workbench, and your productivity definitely improves there. So yes, you do then obviously also get different systems. You get the manual systems like I mentioned before, and then you get the automated system, which is like ours, which basically then takes the configuration settings of your shifts and the clockings that have been inputted, and obviously it'll generate the hours according to that. So you'd either then get your normal hours if this guy worked overtime, before or after, depending on your shift setup. It'll allocate that whether you want to authorize that overtime first or not before it actually gets carried through to your payroll system. You can also do that then. And obviously, like I say, an automated system, you've got the accuracy. There is lesser margin for human error. There is still a manual intervention, yes. So you need to understand this is not a magic system that just automatically does everything. If the guy forgets to clock, you need to just enter that clocking in order for it to calculate hours. But there's minimal intervention. If you've got your guys clocking correctly, if you're training them correctly in terms of, you see this guy keeps forgetting to clock out the afternoon, then you can obviously go and speak to him, say, listen, what's going on? Is it perhaps that it's not working in the afternoon for you, that you can't clock? Are you just simply forgetting to clock? And you can actually sort that. Once that information comes in, the system will generate those hours, and it should be fairly easy for you to then do your payroll. It's also better for you to monitor this on a daily basis. If you can find 15 minutes in your day, just check then your errors, whether the employees have actually forgotten to clock out. Let me just set this back. Whether they've forgotten to clock out, perhaps they clocked in the wrong direction to in clockings. It's important for you to just keep this number always at a low. If there are any errors in the system, it will not generate those hours. Your payroll will obviously be incorrect. So it's of utmost importance that you do fix these errors. Like I say, find 15 minutes in your day, fix yesterday's errors, any clockings that are missing, etc. And by the time it's payroll, it should be 1, 2, 3, and you are done. With a manual system as well, if you've got a manual clocking system, you need some skilled people to at least just be able to calculate that information correctly and not make many mistakes there with that. So you need someone you can trust, and that's pretty skilled there to actually do that. And it's extremely labor intensive, because obviously you've got these guys that you need to employ now, and they need to, depending on whatever your period is, they need to obviously generate that information for you in terms of hours and what you need to pay those guys then. So yes, the main purposes of a TNA system is to capture data. You can also then obviously, in our system, you can capture any extra information that you would need, perhaps medical details, when they went for their last medical checkup, or any other, personal information with numbers, etc., or HR information. All that information you can actually go and capture in the system there. So it's definitely, you can. It's not your payroll system. What you need to understand as well, there's a big difference between the time and attendance system and a payroll system. The time and attendance system is going to basically calculate the ins and outs, is going to calculate the hours based on that, and it's going to generate that information. It's not going to generate rand values for you as to say, this employee, you should pay him X amount of money. So that all gets done in your payroll system there. Taxes, tax deductions, any other funny deductions that you would need, all gets done in your payroll system. So this is purely actually, hourly based. So also important to remember when you're setting up any allowances for your shift, remember that if there is an allowance of $30 or whatever that may be, or 150 Rand or whatever that may be there, you need to understand that you're not going to set that up in the TNA system. That you will more than likely either set up then, if it's automated every month, you will set it up in your payroll system, or else manually enter it every day. Also, if there is an odd occasion where this employee perhaps left early and you need to go and fix that, don't go and change your whole shift now, according to this guy, unless it's a regular thing that he's leaving, 3 o'clock every Friday or whatever that may be. You can set up a separate shift for him then. But if it's a once-off or, maybe 4 or 5 times a year, rather do that than manually, just make that change that is needed there. The other purpose then of a time and attendance system, you can do labor costing, job costing. If you do need that in your company, you can obviously, allocate charge rates, etc., work out that information of job costing and generate information that doesn't have the guy's clock on a job, and see what those costs are there. And then obviously it manages your attendance, whether this guy has been at work or on leave, etc., etc. So you've got then also some terminology that you just need to be aware of in the system. You've got your pay period, which will basically be how much days are there between your payroll period. In this case, you'll see we're running from the 3rd to the 9th, so that is a weekly pay period. You'd also obviously get your fortnightly or your monthly pay period then as well. And then you'd obviously have a payroll export. This export basically takes the information from TNA, exports it in the format that you need it for your payroll system, and you can obviously import it there. Now, any payroll exports that are available here aren't necessarily just correct by default. You've got then your pay codes, which pertains to your company, individual pay codes for that. So any payroll system that you've got, we've got multiple payroll systems as well that we can set up. Even if we don't have it in this list and you've got a layout, you can find out by your consultant whether we can set something up, as long as you've got that the import layout for that. We can set up a report to export that information. So like I say, important to remember as well, you're going to have individual company numbers, company codes, and obviously also payroll codes in order to export that information to your payroll system. Now generally, like I say, you're calculating hours in the system here. So more than likely, your most common thing is actually exporting those hours. You're not necessarily exporting any leave types, which day he took leave, etc., etc. there. So your main thing is hours then for that. And then the other thing just that you would perhaps see or hear speaking from or in your shift questionnaires is time categories. Now time categories, just to explain again, is your all your different categories for your hours. You've got then your extra, or sometimes you'll see it says excess. That is basically, once again, depending on your setup of your shift, it would basically be the guy's not getting paid for that. It's extra hours that he's earned perhaps before his shift has started, after his shift had ended, depending on your setup there. But basically that doesn't get exported to your payroll system then, unless you specify that you want that included into your hours. Obviously normal or your base hourly would be this column here. You've got then your overtime 1.5 and 2. The holding categories is generally when you've got overtime authorization set up. It will be set up as a holding category. You then need to obviously go and authorize that overtime for that day. Let's see, for the 8th of the 6th, we would need to authorize that. You'll see he's got 8 hours. If you feel you only want to give this guy 8 hours, you can do so and actually authorize those hours for that employee then. Obviously once it appears in this column, that will then be exported to your payroll system. And that's the crux of the time and attendance system, just to show you how easy it could be for payroll if you obviously are to monitor the information, every day in terms of fixing clockings or everything like that. It's quite an easy step to do that. So first things first, when you need to run your payroll, you need to just go and check, are there any errors in your pay period? Are there perhaps any other errors? Sorry, let's just go back to June. In your pay period, are there any errors that you need to fix? That's your first priority, is fixing errors so that it can generate those hours. So let's just go through these a quick, we can go through just to fix these. So we've got 8 errors displayed at the bottom. And you'll see there obviously isn't 8 errors listed in the screen here. It might be that there are some before your pay period that are now, afterwards. But basically you need to just check in your pay period which are there, and we need to fix those. So let's do a quick fix for these ones. Let's see, we've got an in clocking and we've got an out clocking at 5. For the 6 we've got our morning in clocking, we've got our afternoon out clocking. Let's just see what this guy might actually be on a night shift. So we need to just check what this employee is actually allocated to. So let's quickly go to this employee, the demo users, and let's see. Now in this case it might be that he's actually allocated on the incorrect shift. We'll see that he is actually allocated on night shift. This guy should actually be on a day shift, so I'm going to go and change him back to the day shift. Let's put him on the 8 till 5 shift. Now from your errors, like I say, you can quickly pick up whether this guy is actually then also on the correct shift or not. So let's just quickly change that. And then we obviously need to go through all the other errors to just process those and make sure that those are correct there then. So let's go back here, let's close this. Because I've made a change on his shifts, I know that these 3 are going to be all the same issue. Easiest thing to do is just to reprocess all errors. It'll run through everything and just give you the errors that are actually there. So let's quickly go and fix this ones. We've got a wrong clocking direction found. If we check on the Friday, we'll see there is an error dot there. We've got 2 ins. So this guy clocked in twice. You'll see in this case he actually clocked in, but I've also added a manual clocking incorrectly. So I can either remove that or I can just simply go and change that to my afternoon out clocking. Okay, we're happy with that. Let's go and just check our last error that we need to do. Same thing there. So I'm going to remove that one. And I'm going to go and add another one. So it really doesn't matter which way you actually do this. The only difference here is obviously how you will see that screen. So you'll see a deleted clocking there. Obviously very important for you to remember to check that the date is actually added correctly, and also just quickly run through and check your pattern, is that correct there. Once you've done that and you're happy with all the errors that have been fixed, you'll see there's 0 errors left. You'll also see that your sign changes to a green go sign, and that pretty much says to you, you're ready for payroll. You can go and run this report. So I've fixed the errors. You've added all the leave that you need to. That's the second thing that you would need to do. Make sure that you've actually added the individual leave for those employees when they've taken sick leave, unpaid leave, etc., etc. Once you've done that, you can do a quick scan to see, are you happy with the hours before exporting to payroll. Now the easiest screen to do that in is your global payroll hours. You can go and specify your pay period here, and you can just go and check, are all these hours, are you happy with this? Let's go and see. We've got 14 hours. That seems to be slightly short. Let's just go and see what is actually going on with this employee. We can see, oh, wait, Wednesday he was not here. Is that correct? Should I be adding leave for that day perhaps? Or is he simply just absent? You're not going to pay him for that day. In this case, I'm just going to go and add a leave type. Let's just see, that was for the 5th. And this employee was also off sick that day. It'll obviously then give him his hours then according to whatever your shifts may be then. Let's just process that. We've got 8 hours. You check there, process this again, because remember you've had screens open just to check, and you see, okay, there's 16 hours for his sick leave and he's got normal hours. I'm happy with those hours. Let's scan everything else, 32. That all seems to look okay. I know this guy worked a little bit short and I'm happy. Once you've actually checked those hours, you're ready for payroll. It's as easy as then going to your payroll export, selecting the one that has been set up for you with your codes, and printing that, and obviously then saving that to a file, choosing your payroll dates, choosing your employees, clicking on start, and it's exported the information. Obviously once that has been done, you can then go and import it into your payroll system, and payroll is done. Obviously then you can just pay those employees, and that is pretty simple, quick and easy. So yes, like I say, make sure that you've monitored these errors, fix them. Every morning you find 15 minutes, fix them, and payroll will actually be an extremely easy and quick task to do. It doesn't need to take you 5-6 hours to do that payroll system if you're actually monitoring it on a daily basis. Time and attendance can be extremely easy, providing that your shifts have actually been set up correctly, that your employees are clocking correctly, that they're not forgetting to clock every second day. And if they are, it comes down to an education thing where you need to educate them on either how to clock, or if their fingerprints aren't working, etc. Make sure whatever the problem is there and sort that out at that level, which will make your life easier. And that's pretty much time and attendance. I hope you have learned something, and that you will join me next time then.